You're listening to Exploring Anime with Friends, a JMO for Real podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all major podcasting networks. I'm your host, JMO!
And today's friend is my guest host, Mark. How's it going today, Mark?
Pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. Are you excited for this installment of the special edition of Exploring Anime with Friends?
Excited? Actually, I'm hungry.
You're hungry? You know what? That is much better because you should definitely be prepared to watch Delicious in Dungeon on an empty stomach. That way you can snack while Senshi's cooking all the great creations, right?
Yeah.
Today
I got some cravings for some monster food.
You know, honestly, I kind of want to taste some of it. Like, you know, I'm curious what Red Dragon tastes like after watching it. Aren't you?
Like chicken.
Yeah, I mean, but not really like chicken, as Laios would say. It tastes like Red Dragon. Like,
yeah.
All right. Today we'll be exploring the world of Delicious in Dungeon, a fantasy adventure with both humor and culinary sub-themes. For the next 20 to 25 minutes, join us as we explore the first season of Delicious in Dungeon. First, we will meet Laios, Fallon, and their first encounter with the Red Dragon. Next, we will introduce you to Senshi and the unique way they plan on going through the dungeon. Afterwards, we will discover some of the other teams that they interact with on their delve. And finally, we will explore some of the pearls and cuisines that define the journey. And remember, if you like what you hear today, follow us on social media, linked in the show notes. All right, and Mark, you have something to promote today, too. You're actually making your own original music, and you finally have that YouTube and Spotify page up, right?
Yeah, I have a passion project that I do with my friend, Zach. He kind of just comes over once in a while, and we just record our own music because, you know, we got the gear for it and the time. So, you know, it's just fun to do.
Awesome, awesome. And the name of the passion project is Echolens, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. We will have that, the Spotify and the YouTube channel linked in the show notes. So definitely check it out. The music's good. Like, honestly, I appreciate it. I enjoy it. And you probably will too. Or at least I hope you will. And I know Mark hopes you will too, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's dive into this original team that goes into the dungeon. And initially, they're just going in on a normal delve. There's no clear-cut mission or goal. Like, you know, honestly, they're exploring it for the sake of exploring. This dungeon as a whole has been very farmed out through the course of the years. So there's not a lot of gold and treasure and jewelry on the floors that most teams can get to. So it's really one of those things where it feels like it's a dungeon towards the end of its journey, unless you can really put a team together to go all the way. And Laios, Fallon, and several others are diving in with their team. And Laios and Fallon are a brother-sister duo. Mark, you want to talk to us a little bit about both Laios and Fallon?
Well, I like how they do the races in this anime. Basically, humans are called tall men. So Laios is a tall man, and he's a fighter. His sister, Fallon, is a tall man as well, but she's a mage. And they have a pretty good connection with each other and part of the same party and fighting alongside together. That's what we're introduced to.
And we learn a bit more about them as it goes along and everything. But one of the things with Laios is he's a very, like, it's not socially awkward. Is the word naive? Like, he's very inept with social cues. Not that he doesn't talk, because obviously he talks and he's someone who enjoys conversation, but he doesn't seem to understand it all that well, right?
Yeah, I feel like Laios is kind of the conduit for the audience to experience things. I kind of feel like he's the main character in a way where he's like an everyman character that we can identify with, and he kind of asks the questions that we're asking. Yeah, that's the way I see him. Not explicitly stated that that's the way it is, but I experienced it like that.
You know, honestly, I agree with you, I think. And then as far as Fallon goes, she's a really kind and warm-hearted one. A little bit of a prodigy, a little bit of someone who just really is a great healer / cleric / white mage to have on any team, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's basically a well-done character to the point where you don't want to see anything happen to her because she's a great person, carefree attitude, very gifted in magic. You know, it's almost like they're setting up for something. Yeah.
Something that comes opening episode as you see them get down to the 5th floor of the dungeon, and with the rest of their adventuring team, they encounter the Red Dragon. what turns out to be one of the like big followers of a being referred to as the Mad Maid. And we're going to talk a little more about the Mad Maid as we go along. Yeah, they encountered the Red Dragon, and things just start to fall apart quickly. Want to talk to us about that scene?
Well, yeah, it's a pretty chaotic scene. They're fighting the dragon. Laios kind of looks like he's a bit distracted, and Phelan gets caught up by the dragon. And in the process of being like eaten, she does a teleport to everyone and teleports them into town.
And at that point in time, two of the members decide that, this is it. They can't go on any further with this party. So, and we learn more about them later on. Their names are Shuro and Namari, and they end up leaving. And the only two that stick around with Laios are his sister's best friend, Marcel, and Shellshock, a half-foot that is really just kind of known for being in it for the money than anything else, which is crazy because this group is now officially broke. They are able to get one meal together, and then they come to a realization, a decision that they do, and tell us a little bit about what they're going to attempt to do.
So they're going to attempt to rescue Fallon. They say that they want to get to the dragon before she's digested. So they're making a scramble to get to the 5th floor, whatever that will mean in the future. I don't want to spoil it.
And honestly, I don't think we're going to be spoiling that during the course of this. It's a pretty decent mythos to the universe that's already been developed up to this point in time. One of the obstacles they're going to have to face is that they don't have the money for food and everything. So Laios's brilliant idea is, you know what? Let's eat the monsters. When we kill the monsters, let's eat the monsters. And he's like, as they go into the dungeon again, he chops a mushroom being in half. And yeah, so he's kind of like, let's figure out how to cook this. Maybe we boil it or something like that.
Yeah, the thing that always confused me, though, is that where did he get that book? Like, he has a book that explains to him how to cook the monsters, but everyone else seems ignorant of it. But, like, where did he get that book from?
So do you think that book is a plot point that's going to become something important in, like, season 2 or 3? Or do you think it's just a plot device that's being used to make the premise work?
I'm unsure because I haven't caught up on the manga, so I'm waiting for the anime to come out to fill me in on that. But I have a feeling right now it's a plot device. It may be something that he possibly got from a specific person that's related to.
I kind of hope it's a plot point later on. That's something that hasn't been released yet, but it does kind of feel like a convenient plot device to me too. But either way, that's not where the bulk of their knowledge comes from, as they're making this very crude, like mushroom being soup in the middle of the first level, where a bunch of adventurers are, because this shops are set up and they're all getting prepared to go into the dungeon. The first level is more or less like a commerce spot for people diving in further. They run into a guy by the name of Senshi. Talk to us about the great character that is Senshi.
Yeah, Senshi is awesome. He's a dwarf. He runs into Laios while he's cooking all that stuff. And he's like, wait, you're not doing it right. You gotta prepare it this way. Cuts everything up, and before that, they actually tried the scorpion tail, I think, and was like getting sick, and they had no idea what they were doing. So Senshi comes along and makes this huge meal, and then Laios is like super excited about it, and he gets really into like, oh, I want to eat all of the monsters. Yeah, so Senshi says that he's committed to keeping the balance of the ecosystem in the dungeon. He shows how he does this later on in the episode, but he basically lives there. And he sees what they're doing, going to get their sister, and that they're open to eating monsters, so he offers to be their guide.
Senshin's probably one of my favorite anime characters that I've run into over the course of the last couple of years. He's a very easy character to like. He's a very, I'm not going to say he's super kind, but he's super thoughtful. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, he walks the line between being like really wise, but also being kind of a little insane.
Yeah. So, and when we say that they were all like very willing to try the food of the dungeon, we do have to point out that that might not be so true for Marcel. Talk to us a little bit about Marcel.
Well, she's an elf with some talent in magic. Not as much as Fallon, but she does a good job supplementing. And she's really grossed out by even the thought of eating any of the monsters.
And she definitely makes it pretty clear, no monsters that are like humanoid.
Yeah, but once you have the first monster, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, no, definitely. But she's a very reserved character as a whole. Like right off the bat, you're thinking that because of the type of role that she appears to be, you're thinking somebody who often like abuses the main character. Like it's an anime trope, but at the same time, she's also a very kind and thoughtful person too. Like really, when it comes down to it, this party is a very like considerate party as a whole, as far as manner wise, with the exception of maybe Shell Shock.
Yeah, and you learn more about him later in the episode. There's not too much given up front about him, but I really like Marcel. I think she's a really good character. She kind of acts as a foil for all of the meals. Every time something comes out and it looks amazing and everyone wants to try it, then she's always like, "No way, I'm never going to try that."
Until eventually she breaks down because she's hungry and she's like, "This is delicious." Like,
Yeah, like the one time where she was dreaming about eating monster stuff and then she woke up to the smell of another camp and they were having food. And then
yep.
she felt guilty about it.
So if you like what you're hearing so far, be sure to watch it for yourself on Netflix. Delicious Gungeon was a Netflix original creation, so check it out there. And remember to like, subscribe, and follow both Exploring Anime with Friends and Echolens on social media. All right, so we mentioned before that two members left along the way, but those two members did not just leave for the sake of they were completely done. They actually left because they had good reasons. They didn't think that Laios and group would be able to go back in quickly, and they wanted to get back into the dungeon as quickly as possible. So they joined up with other teams immediately. And Neymari was also a dwarf too, who worked with them. And her new team are the ones that they run into first. That's the first major encounter with another adventure group. Talk to us about Neymari and the team that she joined up with.
Well, the first team she joins up with, she travels with some gnome researchers, Mr. and Mrs. Tansu, and their bodyguards, Kaka and Kiki.
And they're still unsure which one is which because
Yeah.
like that joke is made a couple of times.
Yeah, she used to be in Laos's party, and she was like the main fighter. And she kind of sees Laos as like an okay fighter, but like kind of worries about his leadership. Doesn't really trust it.
That's something that's brought up on multiple occasions. Laios wasn't really the leader because he doesn't understand the social etiquette that most leaders do. He is passionate and he is somebody who will do anything for his friends and for those around him.
He does a lot of heroic stuff,
Oh,
despite
yeah.
being a bit clueless.
Yeah, no, he is an absolute hero when he's in combat. It's just out of combat. Sometimes he does say some stupid stuff, highlighted by a fist fight that he has with Shuro and his part. Shuro dives back into the dungeon with his family. And talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit about them and a little bit about that headbutting that happens with Shuro and Laios and what it's over.
Shura is a samurai, and he assembles a party from his family to go and I guess presumably look for Phelan.
Well, because
I
he
don't
loves
know.
her. Like he actually,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
in love with her. They were mad at each other because they're both looking for Fallon, and Shuro found out that they made it harder to look for Fallon.
You know what? Let's
So
let's just rip the band-aid off here. When they finally catch up to the Red Dragon, when Laios, Senshi, Marcel, and Shellshock catch up with the Red Dragon, somehow they miraculously pull off this underdog victory by utilizing the landscape and by really utilizing everything that all the weird stuff that they've learned up to that point in time. They take out the Red Dragon, ultimately to find that Fallon has been digested. But then they realize, wait a minute, they can go to where another sack that's inside of the dragon, and they pull it out, and they're able to find Fallon's skeleton after they put it back together. And Marcel does a very major, significant thing.
Marcel, we don't know it up to this point, but she's been studying dark magic, and she uses it to bring Fallon back to life.
But it's
And
like a blood magic and a dark
yeah, it's like a
resurrection. Like,
bloody
it's not
kind of,
necromancy, but like,
and it works, but there's certain things that come as a consequence of using black magic.
well, yeah, I mean, for one, it puts you on the radar of the Mad Mage. And I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about the Mad Mage. The Mad Mage is the one who created this dungeon for a purpose that they believe was to preserve the Empire at first, but was a purpose that was corrupted over the course of time. Creates the dungeon and ultimately creates beings to wander the dungeon that are like the extensions, like his arms and his legs, and the Red Dragon was one of them. After they bring back Fallon, he notices Fallon, and because they use the meat of the Red Dragon to bring back Fallon, he notices that Fallon is partially the Red Dragon. So he resurrects her in his own way as one of his, probably the best way to put it. But
yeah,
they're
and
known for
Laos has the nerve to actually admit to Shuro that that's what they did. And because he's in love with Fallon, he's really not happy about that.
Yeah, it's like, you turned her, used dark magic to resurrect her and like turned her into like a monster of sorts, and then you allowed her to get recaptured by the Mad Mage? Like, Shuro's
Yeah.
not having any of this. And meanwhile,
I think
well,
the funniest thing about their little fight, though, is the only reason Laos wins is because he's been eating good and Shuro hasn't.
yeah,
He's like a little malnutrition because he's been going deeper and deeper and he's not eating the monsters like them. But because of pure nutrition from the dungeon, Laos is able to defeat him. I thought that was pretty funny.
yeah, it is. And like he's standing there too, almost like with his hands on his hips saying, I've been eating 3 square meals a day and being sleep at night. That's why I was able to beat you. And kind of like, oh my goodness, I would want to smack him there too. Like,
Yeah.
Honestly, Laios is a pretty funny character. He's definitely not one of my favorite anime characters I've met in a long while, like Senshi is. But he got me laughing on numerous occasions throughout the course of this.
Yeah, in like a meta kind of way, I don't know if anyone's ever seen Mob Psycho 100, but there's a character
Yeah.
in that called Reagan, and he's like a fake paranormal
Yeah.
guy, and he's got the same blonde hair and the same look and the same kind of dopiness, I guess. And I just couldn't help but see Reagan in a lot of the stuff that he did. And I think Reagan's hilarious.
Good comparison there. I definitely liked and appreciated that. All right, we talked about the fist fight with Shuro. Any of the actual food or fights up to that point in time that you really want to bring up and go into? What was your favorite moments up to that point in time?
I really like the living armor one. I grew up with a video game that had living armor in it, like an RPG, and I always
Okay.
thought it was just like the coolest thing. And then it was happening in the episode, and the series is very heavily based off of like kind of like Dungeons and Dragons and wizardry
Yeah, it
kind of
feels
stuff.
like a campaign. This feels like the type of mismatch crew that went into a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Yeah, so it strangely had like a nostalgia for me, and it was just really cool to see him fighting with like the armor and then getting to the twist of why the armor was actually animated.
Yeah, give us the twist.
The twist is that they're fighting the animated armor, but in the back there's one that he goes to, and he notices that there's like egg sacs on the back of its shield as he's fighting it. And so he deduces from that and from fighting them that they're actually mollusks that are in between the joints acting as like muscles to fight. And that's really cool. He like takes off the head and then it's like, where is everything? And I'm like, how does that like they're they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a funny thing when he does that because it's a very tense battle. And then all of a sudden he realizes that and just takes his head off and then it's kind of just over.
Yeah, no, it goes from the intense one moment to like a complete like laughing stock the next moment. Plenty of humor laced in throughout the battle, and honestly, a great creative explanation as for something that is a very popular fantasy creature as a whole. So I really appreciate that they took time to explain that. My favorite thing in the early part that's full of hijinks and everything is when Senshi decides they're being trailed by ghosts and they realize they can't escape them anymore. So essentially, it's like, okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of this from here because that repels ghosts. This stuff's undead. Here's a little salt. Oh, wait, no, I don't have any salt. So we'll use sugar instead because they kind of look the same. And like he's mixing it all together. And then he like ties it up and he starts swinging it around. And he's hitting the ghost with it. And they're actually going away. It's like he made homemade holy water on the spot from the ingredients that they had.
Yeah, and
yeah.
What's funny about that is usually you splash holy water,
Yeah,
but he's using it like he's not wasting any of it. He's
a
just
flail.
swinging the whole thing around and
Yeah,
just like a
he put it in
weapon.
a jar and he's using it like a flail all over the place. And at the end, he's like, "This kind of looks and it smells kind of familiar." And he opens it and he dips his finger into the homemade holy water that now has ectoplasm all over it. And he tastes it and he's like, "Oh, it's sorbet." Like, and then they all sit down and have like ghost sorbet together after that.
Yeah, I actually had that as one of my favorite dishes, the exorcism sorbet. It looks pretty good.
Oh, okay. Is there actually a recipe? There has to be a cookbook for this somewhere, right?
I think there will be,
Yeah.
if there isn't. But I
Oh
mean,
man, hopefully.
there either is or there's going to be. I think it's
Um,
just a matter of time.
all right. So, any final thoughts or statements? Anything you want to before we start to wrap up? Anything else you want to bring up?
I think an important thing to know about the show is that it starts off in a way that's a bit slow paced to get you up to speed. But if you're really patient with it, it starts snowballing and gets out of control and really like at first it kind of looks like a gimmick. Oh, they're just gonna go in and eat stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like a recurring episode every time. But the deeper you get, the more they go into different stories, and it becomes not a gimmick anymore, but the foundation of something that's really complex. So I think people definitely got to give it a couple more episodes in to really get a taste for it.
Starts to get really interesting in that 10 to 12 episode range.
Yeah,
So,
because I saw it for the first time and I was like, "Oh, neat, it's kind of like Food Wars, I guess." But then it got up to a certain point and I was like, "Wow, this is really epic."
for me, it was one of the anime that I watched in 2024 that was probably the funniest, as far as I'm concerned. Like, not that I didn't appreciate the fantasy elements or some of the things that they did nice and the story that really developed well, but I think that the humor was actually really good. I found myself laughing more often than I would watching a normal anime, so I really kind of appreciated it from that sense.
Yeah, and it's really hard to find something that balances very great action and story, and then actually really good humor at the same time. It's pretty rare to find something that has a really good balance of that.
And they really did.
Yeah, I think they nailed it with that.
Yeah. So once again, we met Laios and Fallon in their first encounter with the Red Dragon. Then we introduced you to Senshi and the unique way that they went through the dungeon by cooking through it as they were slaying the monsters. Afterwards, we met some of the other beings like Nemari and Shuro that were part of their original journey. And then we explored the dungeon, some of its cuisines and some of its obstacles. I hope you had as much fun exploring the first season of Delicious in Dungeon as we did, and consider watching the end.
So if you like what you heard today, make sure you listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you stream your podcast. Listen to all of our JMill for Real podcasts, and hit us up on social media, like, subscribe, and follow. Once again, this was Exploring Anime with Friends. Let's explore together. And now for a word from our sponsors. Binbuster. Live from YouTube, it's Tuesday night, the call sign of the Binbuster YouTube channel. Once you hear this, you know you're about to embark on a journey through pop culture, movies, comics, and more. Buckle up and enjoy the ride every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. EST. Poppin' Cinema with Joe Mama and friends. Showcasing the power of cinema, join Joe Mama as he introduces different friends each week to a movie they have not seen before, popping their cinematic cherry as they talk about the movie they just watched every Tuesday at midnight.